So now let's move on to step 4, developing scenarios. Now there really are 3 different bodies of thought about how to develop scenarios. Spectrum, where you're going to take whatever your primary driver is and kind of take a look at a worst case, best case, and middle of the road series of scenarios. Another is to take your core drivers and understand how in a 2x2 we might develop scenarios. And then finally, many people just want binary. What's the worst case, what's the best case, that kind of thing. So if we take a look at Spectrum, the homework that we sent out in advance suggested that you need to ask yourself the following question. What internal external factor, if changed, would have the largest impact on your performance over the next 2 years? So in this case, the primary driver could be something like the economy. In the case where we're taking a look at, as we had earlier on in this webinar, the strategy map, what are the core strategic objectives, and therefore which internal or external drivers might have the most significant impact, we would then again come up with that primary driver. And by the way, the primary driver could be one of those strategic objectives itself. So an example of Apple, the primary driver could be innovation itself, as opposed to whether the economy can support an iPad or another iPhone. Then the scenarios A, B, and C, we're going to develop those based on, again, if you did the pre-work, what are logical scenarios. So often people take a pessimistic view, sort of if it's the economy, what's a stagnation view look like, and then finally optimistic. And so we end up with our spectrum setup. The second, the matrix approach, is one that suits itself, I think, a bit better for our more complex business environments. In that case, if we go back to the strategy map, we're going to take, for the left axis, one of the strategic objectives, the key drivers, continuous innovation. And we're going to grade that from there being no innovation in the organization to us being a leading innovator. Then we're going to take the other key strategic objective, in this case, customer intimacy, and scale that from what happens if you have few customer relationships compared to having many deep relationships. So let's see where these 4 scenarios take us. If scenario 1 is we have few relationships and no innovation, that's a scenario that basically says we're going to do nothing and go nowhere. Not a very good alternative, but it is a plausible future. What if we have few relationships? Whatever we're doing to build relationships does not work for us, but we're successful at innovating. Well, then we're going to be innovating to stand still. So we've got new products and services, but it's not taking us towards our strategic objectives. What if, again, we fail at innovation, but we're very successful at building new, deep relationships? Well, that's kind of digging the same hole deeper. I have the same products, I'm just offering them to more people. So there may be market share to be had, but it's a different plausible future. Then finally, the ideal world where we're a leading innovator and we are using those and other things to develop more relationships, that's where we're digging a hole in a new place. This is a new business model that we're moving towards. So these are 4 scenarios that this simple approach has allowed us to surface, which are more than just taking that spectrum approach. It's a richer model. So what we're now going to do is understand that there are many plausible futures, and we now need to begin understanding which of those we want to begin building out in our scenario plan. So what we're going to do is take those chosen scenarios and enter them in the spreadsheet. So it'll look a bit like this. So now we're back looking at the software. Down here in cell B18, we can change the scenario names from the default to whatever you'd like. And so once you change these, they change on the spreadsheet. So for example, up here in the scenario performance, which we'll come to later, it will change into the new names. It will also change down here in the project scenario planning, which we'll get to later. So these cells over here are useful for setting up the scenarios that you've agreed to.